In today's episode, we're talking about the complexity of safety management. Is it manageable? Let's find out.
I'm Amandeep. How was your weekend?
It was good. How was yours?
It's good.
I don't even know what day we're on. Tuesday, you think it is?
Ice skating with Rowan, who doesn't let me watch him ice skate. He just, every time I get close to him, he yells at me, "Stop watching me!" So I just skate around like that creepy 36-year-old just skating by himself at a public skate.
That's better than my nieces. They're like, "Don't see me."
Yeah. And he's just going the opposite direction. He's just looking at his feet skating, so it's just chaos out there. People are wondering where his dad is, or mom. Just a little terror. Whatever. He'll learn. He'll run into somebody.
Let him go. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then what else did I do? Oh, we went to a gala, actually.
Oh,
Our
nice.
first gala. Tanya actually invited me.
Yeah.
It was a fundraiser for the city...
Was it City of Surrey?
No, it's City Outreach, something city. It helps underprivileged families.
City Dream.
City Dream.
Yes. Okay, I've been a part of that.
Yeah. And she had a ticket that came up at her table last minute, so she invited me. I was like, sure, me and Rose will go.
Nice.
Richard DeLong was there.
Okay.
His wife, Serena. She used to be with the BCCSA, and then she turned into a consultant and moved out.
Oh, Serena Hansky.
Yeah, she now somehow is connected with Main Roads.
Yes.
Yes.
She does traffic control.
Awesome, amazing person. Main Roads donated $10,000 actually to the event with a big check.
Was Bob Nielsen there then?
No, it was he gave her the check to bring.
Got it. Okay.
And then Tanya and her mom.
Oh, nice.
And I can see where Tanya gets it from.
Yeah.
Personality-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Her mom is hilarious.
What's her mom's name? Gail, I think?
Gayleen.
Or Gayleen, yeah.
Yeah, so it was fun. And then I think that's pretty much it. Family stuff. Just hanging out, relaxing. Yeah. It was pouring rain the whole weekend. It was terrible.
Did Rowan go to soccer?
No, he starts next week.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, if the field's not covered in water, it might be water polo instead of soccer.
Yeah. I've gone like 3 Sunday mornings in a row because I've like
set up like soccer?
Personal goals. No. For my niece's soccer games.
Oh, cool.
So she's 6. Yeah. And I tell my brother and sister-in-law, I'm like, I can commit to this time slot. They're like, sure, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Sunday mornings.
And you pick them up and bring them and everything?
I meet them at the field.
So you're doing the easy part. Start picking them up from the house.
I know. And they live 10 minutes away, but it takes me like about 20, 25 minutes. I come in from the opposite direction. Yeah, so I meet them there, and we go for an hour, and I love watching her. Like, just absolutely love it. Yeah,
it is. She's at the age where they aren't chasing butterflies, which is good.
Yeah.
They're probably playing-ish a game, right?
Yeah. And she's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about the complexity of safety management.
Safety management isn't complex. I don't even know why you chose that topic.
Really?
I'm kidding. It's more and more complex every year that goes by. I learn something new about safety management. But
okay.
How about you?
I would say it could be as complex as you make it, or it could be as simple as you want.
Elaborate, Amandeep. Tell me more.
Like, tell me more. All the while achieving the same goals. So by that I mean I've dealt with in my past consulting. So I've had companies that were super small. By small I mean there was the one owner, his wife was doing the paperwork,
right,
and then his son was helping him with all his work. So that was like a very basic structure. And then I've dealt with big companies where there's hundreds of people. There's a very robust safety management system. They have all the complexities, but they're still achieving the same goals as a small little company.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
I found, and maybe you can help me understand this a little bit more, because as Salus brings on more and more customers, we find that there is, there's a set of regulations, right? They're the same regulations for everyone, but the way that people manage and interpret those regulations can be completely different across the board. I would say not completely different, but they can definitely vary. So we have some customers where it's like, no, there's no other way you could possibly do this. This has to be done this way, only this way. And it feels like sometimes it goes so deep into the weeds that it's got to be incredibly difficult for field level employees to adapt and adopt.
Yeah.
And then there's other customers or people that I've met in the industry where it's not quite that hard line. It's more of a adaptation to what we can handle as a business to create the best culture and slowly implement. But I feel like some of them can, there's two spectrums, and I feel as normal, you've got to find the place in the middle. But it's interesting how you can, I guess it's the same with any type of regulatory, like accounting, taxes, depends on the accountant, depends on, how they interpret the law and everything else. But it's very interesting in safety and how the industry is starting to adapt to it, because there is no standard set of, this is how it's done. All electrical companies are doing it this way. All plumbing companies are doing it this way, right? It's kind of, just take forms, for example. There's 15 different names for a field level hazard assessment.
I know.
So,
yeah.
I said a lot of things there. I don't know if any of them made sense.
No, they definitely do. I think even when you're gauging the complexity of a safety management system, it's twofold. So it looks at the pre-existing structure, or what the business model or plan is within the organization. And you brought up a really good point. It also looks at the jurisdiction, because depending on where you are, there's so many different rules and regulations. So anytime there's a given site, so not only do you have like site requirements or site rules, but you're looking at the municipality, you're looking at the province, or in the states, you're looking at the state. Then you're looking at federal rules and regulations and what those laws are and how they pertain to that job site. So you could have like a basic, simple project, but then have a lot of different regulation that you have to adhere to, that you have to follow. Like, what paperwork do you have to get done? What's mandatory? What's optional?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you go about with that? And even looking at companies. So I've worked with international companies where they've had great big safety manuals, and it was global. Mm-hmm. And so then to add
elevating
to that,
it to another, like the highest standard, no matter where they work.
Yeah. So they had that. Then, depending on the country that you were working in, they had a country safety manual. Yeah, specific to the country. Then you bring it down even more,
to
provincial,
site, provincial, state, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, and region. So by the time you're done reading through all of this, you're just like, man, I feel like super overwhelmed.
So does any worker that joins that company have to go all the way to the top?
I think because...
and understand the highest level, or is it just their jurisdiction that they have to understand?
I think it's just the jurisdiction, because I was in a health and safety capacity, like health and safety role. So
you needed to know that.
Yeah. So I'm flipping through the world manual, and there's like safe job procedures on like how to ride a camel, and I'm like, I don't think we're gonna have that issue in Fort McMurray. I'm like, I think I'm good.
No, unless there's something that I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's it's interesting. That's really interesting. So there's in the way that I look at things, coming from a field level labor perspective, I'm not putting on my manager's hat or my corporate hat.
Yeah.
As a field level worker whose job is to get a task done, whether you're a carpenter, electrical, whatever it may be, you're doing something physically. Yeah. There's an output there. And when you join the trades, initially it's not, I hope that's changing now, but there's no kind of paired up requirement around safety. And we've talked about this before, where we'd love to see that kind of be hybrid. Having said that, so now in order to create a good safety program, you have to shift a culture and create a culture to adopt that. But what I see as a field level labor hat is that it's just putting more and more burden on the field. It's just everything is flowing down. So all these requirements and paperwork and documentation, these 500-page safety manuals, is created, but then pushed down to the field. And realistically, I would say there's very small percentage of people that actually understand the safety manual. So are we going the wrong direction with all this paperwork and all this? Like, I get it. Paperwork is designed in twofold: to protect the business, to have a Bible where you can go to and understand safe ways to perform your job, and what your requirements are and what your rights are as a worker and all that stuff. But it's also incredibly overwhelming, and let's face it, 10% of that book is being absorbed at best.
That's true.
Probably at the highest level as a foreman. Go down to a worker level, probably zero. And I also understand how the field level paperwork is designed to break up complacency as well. But is it actually doing this anymore?
Okay, I have a question for you. Do you think that it's all flowing downhill, or coming, not downhill, but it's all flowing down to the worker? Or is it a distribution of the work so that you can have buy-in from everybody? Right?
I would love to say idealistically, sure.
Okay,
But
fair enough.
in a day-to-day
In the real
operational real world
Yeah,
situation, how many project managers, CEOs, directors are filling out daily forms?
yeah.
Like mass amounts of them. How many of them are required to know everything in their safety manual to
No,
protect
yeah.
the business?
Like slim to
It
none.
all gets pushed down,
Yeah.
and then at the highest level you get to enforce.
Yeah.
And then I think very quickly, and I noticed it the minute I moved from being a hands-on worker to a manager, you start to disconnect from what it's like in real life
True.
as a worker.
Yeah.
And that's an aspect around just management in general. I remember talking to someone saying, hey, why isn't this done yet? And I hadn't been working on a high-rise site physically for so long. It's like, well, Gabe, like, we got to go up a hoist. The hoist was shut down. We had this happen. We had that happen. Like, all these things you forget about. Hey, by the way, Gabe, it's minus 20 out. We had to heat the slab with a Tiger torch for
Yeah.
45 minutes just so we could start putting our angles down for windows. Like, yeah, I'm sitting there in my truck after I got out of the hotel at like 8 o'clock to come to site, or 7:30 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They've been on site since 6:30, defrosting a slab. And I show, right? It's a natural disconnect where you have this idealistic schedule and vision of how things are supposed to go,
Yeah.
and you forget about reality. And I think that starts to happen a lot, and it's starting to, it is in safety. I think the disconnect from how to create a proper inclusive safety program when realistically there's never a field level laborer in those high level corporate meetings creating those programs. It's all, this is how it needs to be done. We'll create the enforcement structure to ensure that this happens. Now, I know there's diverse ways of implementing these programs and creating more inclusion, which I'd love to hear more and more and more about if anyone wants to reach out. But I do believe that the pendulum's swinging so far to covering the business that it's forgetting about a key factor in the reason we have a safety program. It's to protect workers, to ensure that they show up and understand how to do things properly, their rights, the regulations, the breaking up complacency. And I think that gets lost in translation, and then all of a sudden it just turns into pencil whipping. And do we really care about coaching to go past pencil whipping to ensure that the worker understands why they're doing it?
Yeah.
And it turns into just a checkbox. Yep, I had 15 hazard assessments submitted today. I have 15 active workers. I have 2 toolbox talks. Yeah, I have 2 crews. Right? And it just turns into this checklist, and it's moving away from the original intent. So I think it needs a bit of a shakeup.
Yeah.
I know I just talked for a while there, but
No.
you're used to that now. You're like looking at your watch. Okay, 15 more seconds. You should be done.
Episode 6, we're good.
Yeah.
I think you have like really strong, valid points, and they are practical. So for me, like, I am health and safety. A lot of times, yeah, we think ideally, oh yeah, this would work best,
Yeah.
or but like coming back to being real with a system, with any system, it is only as good as its end user.
Yeah.
So meaning that, hey, can the end user really function? Do they understand? Do they know?
Right.
And then coming from the safety's point of view, is it so simple that it doesn't capture everything?
Right.
Or is it so complex that it's like lost?
Right.
The end user is basically lost. So going back to your point originally, I think it's got to be somewhere in the middle.
And how do you find that middle ground?
I think it's based on the organization, it's based on the company, it's based on so many different variables and so many different factors. You can't just take one system and like make templates or copies,
right.
cookie cutter, and then go and be like, oh, this
Push
system is going to be working for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be buy-in, there needs to be a good, strong, healthy safety culture. There needs to be that level of understanding as well.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be, and where there's no education or training, there needs to be guidance and
mm-hmm.
coaching and mentorship.
Right.
Anytime you're looking at any sort of system, you introduce a human. Humans are imperfect. Systems are designed and built so that they can take those imperfections out or try and minimize that. With
right.
health and safety, you're trying to minimize that risk. How? You're putting in systems. And so with systems, you're developing. When you're developing, you need participation and involvement. And
Shannon's MacBook Pro decided to stop it.
So you need involvement on all different levels. How else are you going to capture what the system truly is or what is needed by the worker unless you have their input? Right? So,
mm-hmm.
I mean, by somebody higher up designing all these systems and being like, okay, great, this is going to work for the end user and the worker. Well, you haven't even asked them
right.
what is best for them or what they think in their minds, right? So developing and then implementing it with workers as well. You can write down all these administrative controls. You can write out a safety manual, but you need to eventually integrate it and implement it. And you have to introduce people, your workforce, into it. And then the third is maintaining it.
Yeah.
So keeping it
and
going.
And
adapting, exactly, yeah.
So when you were a safety consultant, what did you like take a 30-person company?
Yeah.
What was your process? Because a lot of the companies that you dealt with
yeah.
were approaching the BCCSA and they had understood safety to a certain level, but they were feeling overwhelmed. They didn't know really what was required of them.
Yeah.
Some of them didn't have safety programs or processes.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them are probably, as any company in that profile would have, older generation or mixed bag of, personalities, experience levels, everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had like anything and everything. Like I had people that companies where they never had a safety manual. There were some companies that had safety programs, and when I looked at it, it was like 12 pages.
Right.
And it was mostly on like how to conduct yourself and cite rules.
Right. It was more like a handbook, employee, HR thing. Yeah.
I've had companies where they had this huge, robust safety manual, but only like 10% of it was applicable
to what they do.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a plumbing company, but they had like electrical and concrete work and cabinetry and finishing. And
ours was very similar.
Yeah. And I was like, this
don't even change the logo on it. We just put it in there. It's
like different fonts and stuff as well.
Yeah.
But no, just to so like you need a benchmark anytime you're being introduced into a company from like a consulting point of view. So go in talking to the company and looking at exactly what they have. And so if you need to start from scratch, you got to start from scratch sometimes, right? And it's like a hard sell sometimes because they've like some of these companies
they're
like
thousands of dollars.
Thousands. And how do you tell them that none of it is applicable?
Right.
Or other times where you're like, oh, I can revise or fine tune this or tweak it a bit. Like you tweak it and then you introduce them to concepts such as safe work procedures and practices and
time
like,
with quality control or
QA QC.
What's your trick to getting that buy-in from the top down?
Saving your workers. It comes down to the very basics and core fundamentals. Like, why are we even talking about safety? Why are we even having this conversation on safety management systems? we're here to protect our workers. Your number one asset is your
You
workers.
wouldn't be there if if they didn't care.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's do it right
Absolutely.
type thing.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So yeah, this was awesome.
It was a good conversation.
Yeah,
It was one of our more intellectual ones.
it was.
I was lost at some points. You went over my head, but
Oh.
I caught up.
Passionate CP folks.
Yes.
Like, yes.
Yes. No, it's good. I think that I think these are important conversations, and I think that I'd love to see more of these conversations happening out there. Challenge the norm. Where are we going the right direction?
Yeah, definitely.
Because
And I encourage like the audience as well, if you guys have any comments or like start those conversations within your organizations and see where they go and look at your safety system and be honest. Be very, very frank. Right?
I like it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Great.
To number 7.
As we end today's podcast, it would mean the world to me if you'd take 5 seconds and hit the like button. Leave a comment to let us know how we did and show some love. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to explore, tell me about it below. Don't forget to subscribe. One last thing, you're going to want to download our resource on de-risking your business. I'll put the link in the description.
Where's the link?
Over here? Maybe over there? I don't know. Down here or here?